be kind. It is a giving of peace in your mind. To a stranger, to a friend. To give in such a way that has no end. We are love. We are one. We are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace. We are war. We are how we treat each other and nothing more. And to be bold, to be brave. It is a thinking that the heart can still be saved. And the darkness can come quick. The dangers in the anger and in the hanging on to it. We are love. We are one. We are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace. We are war. We are how we treat each other and nothing more. And tell me what it is that you see. A world that's full of endless possibilities. The heroes don't look like they used to. They look like you do.
Good night and welcome to Holy Innocents Anglican Church in Paradise. We welcome you from wherever you may be too at this time. You're joining us live this evening. It's great to have you, and if you're watching us at some future time as pre-recorded, it's really good to have you here as well. As a church, as a faith community, we gather in this particular space, this building, for many things. Even with the current COVID situation, we're fortunate to be able to gather on Sunday for worship. Pre-COVID, we would gather, of course, on Sunday and at other times for fellowship, programming, and many other things. However, that does not make us a church. By gathering as good people, trying to be good people, to be faithful people. It is at the end of our worship service, the Eucharist, the Communion, the Mass, and when the deacon says, "Go in peace to love and serve the Lord." When we leave this place, we go into the community, we join family, friends, at work, at school, at other places, organizations in the community to love and to serve. And of course, we are not alone in this effort. There are many individuals, many groups, many organizations in community who do many good things and to serve each other. So during this time of programming we call Faith Works, Faith Turn into Works, we're inviting people from various parts of the community to come in and to join us, to tell us about their work and service, that we may join with them and hopefully support and encourage one another. This evening I will pass you to Tracy, our host, and she can introduce our guest. Partway through our evening or towards our evening, we're open to comment or question. And so if you'd like to make a comment or question that we could pass to our host, to our guest, you're very welcome to do so. So in the chat room if you'd like to do that. Right now I'll pass you over to Tracy. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We've come to our last episode, I guess you could call it an episode, of Faith Works. And we're delighted tonight to have with us Mr. Kieran O'Connell. And Kieran is the Director of Partnerships at the Gathering Place. And it's very fitting that we ended off our Faith Works sessions with Kieran because, as you know, we've been participating in a new initiative here called Blessing Bags. And the initiative has just taken off beyond our wildest dreams, and we've gathered quite a bit of stuff for the clients at the Gathering Place, so we're very excited about that. So, Kieran, just before we get started about the Gathering Place itself, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and how you got started at the Gathering Place and what you do there?
Absolutely, thank you. So I grew up in Mount Pearl, but I volunteered at the Gathering Place when I was in high school. So I became connected there probably when I was 16 or 17. At that time, it was a little bit more loose in terms of, having folks underage volunteering. we've since had to up the age and things like that. If you're coming in as a youth, you need to come in with a chaperone and things like that. So that was probably 2009 to 2011. In 2016, I got a call from Joanne Thompson, who was the executive director at the time, and she asked if I could come and work a 6-week contract. Essentially, the idea at the time was they had just introduced this medical clinic. One of the real good benefits of having the doctors on site is that if you are on income support, one of the things that you can do to get increased benefits is to have doctor's notes written. So, just as an example, if you are living with diabetes, then you need a little bit of extra money so you can make sure that you're buying healthy food. So I think that ends up being about $60 extra a month, $30 in 2 payments. So the doctors were writing these notes, and they would send them into income support, but you wouldn't always necessarily get a call back. Sometimes it would feel like you were sending something into the void, and it may be action, and many times it was action, but it's just nice to have that knowledge or that follow-up. So initially that was the purpose of the role. But the more I worked, the more it kind of became apparent that tracing these notes and following them and making sure they were actioned on was really just a small piece of what had to be done. At that point, we were a staff of 7 people, and since then, we've been able to really increase our programming. We've been able to get a lot more support from government and our corporate partners and community partners, and we've grown not only in terms of the services that we provide, but as a staff. So as of, I think, last week, we're a staff of 63, which is really phenomenal. So I'm thrilled about that. So I've been there since October 2016, and things have certainly changed in that time, but all for the better.
Wow. So you started to mention about the medical services at the Gathering Place. Can you tell us a little bit about what other services are offered, because there's quite a few?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with the medical, because again, when I started, it was we had 2 physician days a week, and we were really lucky to have a lot of nurses volunteering their time. That was a piece of the medical, which is now expanded to a 6-day-a-week service, and Eastern Health actually hires the nurses, their professional service, to come in, and they're all phenomenal. The other parts of the medical services are foot care, which is offered twice a week. Foot care is really important for people as they age, but also when you're working with maybe an older chronic population, people living with diabetes, again, it's a really common kind of illness, but also people who maybe are on their feet a lot. They have to walk around to get their needs met all day. Maybe they don't have proper footwear on. The foot care is actually literally a lifesaver for some people. But also under that Eastern Health umbrella, we have 2 social workers who come in 5 days a week, and they provide kind of crisis counseling, but they will also do sessions with people. I'm going to forget someone now. And then we have a chronic disease management nurse. So as I mentioned 3 times already, if I haven't said it enough, but we've got a lot of folks living with diabetes, but other chronic illnesses too, like chronic pain, COPD, and things like that. So Nurse Judy comes in, she's there 5 days a week, and she'll kind of take on other general nursing responsibilities if things are very busy. But she's also there to help coach people and educate them on how to best look after themselves and what kind of things they can do to make sure that they're healthy and managing their chronic illness. Then in 2018, October 2018, it's hard to believe now, we were really, really lucky. A private donor funded a state-of-the-art dental clinic. So years ago, this is before my time, but if you had an emergency dental issue, you could go to the hospital and have that work done. They took it out of the hospitals, and then it was only in the Waterford, and then it kind of became a little bit more exclusive. So if you were attached to the Waterford, if you saw a doctor there, you could access the dental services there, but it wasn't there for most people. So if you're on income support, you are covered for some extractions. I think it's 2 extractions. And then as you get older, they will cover you for a portion of your dentures, which is fantastic. But as we know, if people are maybe drug using or even just using methadone to kind of come off of street drugs, they might have some serious problems with their teeth. What can happen essentially is a doctor could be treating an infection year after year after year. The same tooth becomes infected, and people can actually get really sick and get heart problems and even die from really poor dental health. So the dental clinic, much like the foot care, is literally a lifesaver. And what we're able to do is, if someone is covered, we can do the work that they're covered for, and then we put that money back into the program so that we have supplies and things like that. And then anything else that they need that's beyond their coverage, we can do for free. So, as folks come off of income support and they might be going on to OAS or CPP or GIS, these kinds of federal funded supplements, they lose that dental service too. So it's really important for those folks to have it as well. We run 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. So breakfast 8 to 9, lunch is 11:30 to 1, and supper is 5 to 7. I was just saying before we started that last summer it wasn't uncommon to see 300, 350 people in a day coming through the building, and some of them coming back for 2 or 3 meals. Now, with COVID, of course, the numbers have gone down quite a bit. We can only have, pretty limited amount of people in the dining space at one time. But we found other ways to try to get services out to people, make sure that they're having their needs met. Aside from the meals, we have a guest empowerment program, which is kind of an umbrella program. So under the guest empowerment program, we would find things like literacy. We run a community garden where guests can just grow, help us in the garden. It's basically a volunteer opportunity. Lots of the guests really want to give back to the place, and we can't have dual kind of volunteer guest positions in places like the kitchen, for example, or anywhere there might be any heavy lifting. So the garden is a way that the guests can kind of give back. When I started, to be a member, it actually cost $3 a year. And I thought that was kind of strange because, $3 is a lot of money for a lot of the people that I work with. A lot of people don't have money to get on the bus, let alone $3 a year for the registration. And I kind of was kicking up a stink about it one day, and I said, why do we do this? Do we really need to do this? And actually, as it turned out, it was the guests who had petitioned the gathering place. They wanted to pay something for all the services that we were getting. So the sisters tried to find an amount of money that was significant enough that they would actually feel, like they are contributing, but not so high that it would be a barrier to folks. So now, of course, if someone comes and they don't have the $3, of course you can come in. But what I find will often happen if we waive the fee for someone is, at some point down the line, they will come back and they will want to pay that fee. And I also really like it too, because if you're not happy with the services you're getting that day, you really want to empower people. So their space is not there for me, it's there for the guests. So if someone is not happy with the services they got that day, they might say, you know what? I want my money back. I want to leave. I'm not coming back here. Now, we might see them the next day. We might see them, 10 minutes later. That's fine. But I do really like that part. We are providing a service, and I think it's really important to keep sight of that at all times. And then the other one, I'm going to forget things, but one of the other things that I love in guest empowerment, two things actually. We have a guest empowerment committee. So what the guests, I think it's a dozen guests, and they will actually review our policies, procedures, and practices. They'll talk about, the work that we're doing, and they'll give us feedback on what we're doing. Again, all going back to this is centered around the person. So we have to make sure that we're providing the services in ways that people will actually want to access them. So I really like that. And then the other thing is it's called Bikes for Good. So a Metro Pass is about $80 a month. $80 a month could be like a quarter of your money. That's your groceries. If you have a cell phone, chances are you don't, but if you do, that's going to take up a lot of your cash there. So we were trying to find a way to help people transport themselves around to get to the places that they need to go. So we just, there was a nonprofit called Read to Ride And when they kind of retired from working there, they gave us all of their tools. So then we just put out calls to the community. We know you have an old broken bike in your garage. Give it to us. We can try to fix them up. So a lot of the guests are absolute whizzes building bikes anyway. So it's become this really nice peer program where people are helping each other fix their bikes, teaching each other how to fix their bikes. We actually, if we get children's bikes, the guests will fix them up and then we'll donate them out to community centers. All just, again, part of that. We give without expecting anything in return. The guests really want to give back and they really want to contribute. So that's just another way that they can kind of help improve, someone else's day and really help build community there. So I absolutely love the bike program. And I know I'm forgetting things, but the last thing I will mention is as of this October, we are running an out of the cold shelter. So we have a capacity for 30 beds. Imagine an auditorium with 30 cots. We run, I think we've had, the most we've had there is about 20 people so far. So we are now basically open 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and it's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Under one roof.
I know,
that's
I'm forgetting
a whole lot of
things.
stuff.
Yeah.
So in the scope of that, just how many volunteers does it take to keep things running smoothly?
Yeah. So with COVID, our volunteer numbers have seen a bit of a dip. We actually had no volunteers, I would say, from March until sometime in the summer. But it's thousands of volunteers. When you take into account all the people who are regulars, who are on shift, but then also the groups like ExxonMobil might send their staff down to decorate for Christmas, or if we have a big project, like if we're moving the boutique, for example, 50 people might come down from a company. And then on top of that, pre-COVID, and hopefully again soon, the grade 12 students from Holy Heart and St. Bon's come in at 7 o'clock in the morning to cook breakfast for the guests. Yeah. So, we have hundreds of regular volunteers, and then on top of that, hundreds and hundreds more of folks who are coming in for kind of specific events and things like that. Yeah.
And we're hearing some crazy numbers on the radio these days on your ads saying that you're close to 4,000 guests now.
Yeah.
And how accurate is that?
Yeah, so we do kind of a registered and unregistered system. So we would really like everyone to register for a number of reasons, but it really gives us I want to say ammunition. I can't think of a better word, but when you're going to talk to government to say, these are the things you need to be aware of, it's much better to have that demographic information, knowing where people are, what part of town they're living in, what kind of housing they're living in. So that is well over 2,000 now. It's closer to 3,000 registered people. And then some people are a little, they don't really want to share too much information. They might not trust us with their name. They might have very valid safety concerns that someone else who they know is coming in to eat, and things like that. It's hard to imagine because I've only been there for 4 years, but the gathering place has been around for 25 years. So a lot of the relationships and things that we're seeing play out between people have existed long before any of the staff have been there. So yeah, between the registered and unregistered guests, it's got to be close to 4,000. I was looking at it the other day, and the registered guests are closer to 3,000 at this point. And that number would be much higher if we had been able to be fully open in the summer. That's the thing. The summertime is when you see a lot of folks coming from out of province for whatever reason. I still don't quite understand it. We see lots of folks coming from out of province. This year we wouldn't have been able to register anyone, basically. So even with that, all of those barriers, we still have pretty incredible numbers.
Wow. And has there been an increase since COVID, or has it been pretty steady?
It started very flat. So we have essentially the regulars, you might call that the core, maybe 1,500 people, maybe 700 or 800 of whom have been coming the whole time we've been open.
A lot of regulars.
Yeah, it's a lot. And then, so it certainly was a bit slower, but we had still that core kind of group. Now that we've opened up again, And I haven't been working frontline for probably a year now in my new role. I almost don't recognize anyone. There's so many new faces, and I don't know where, I know people are coming from all over town as far as Paradise and CVS, and they're finding ways to get in. But it is astounding. It's because at one point I would have been able to point at 300 or 400 people and know their names and their story, and now I'm looking around, and some of those people are still here, and maybe some of them are doing a bit better and have moved on. And I think a lot of people are, if you're living with COPD, you're trying to be really careful right now. So maybe some of them are not coming in for that reason. Yeah, it's wild.
Wow. So what would you say is your biggest need right now, your biggest challenge?
There are many challenges. I think some of the ones that really jump out at me right now are storing donations, because I was saying before we started, the donations that we get at Christmas time, they carry us through the year, sometimes even longer than that. In 2017, the toiletries that we got at Christmas, some of it we had toothbrushes and things like that. A couple of years later, we're still using that same stock. We don't have the same amount of storage right now because we've expanded our programming into every inch of the building. So we need the items, and we need to somehow find a way to control the flow that they're coming in. We're at a pretty good place now, and we're taking everything that's coming to us. But, I know that in the next couple of weeks, as we get closer to Christmas, we very well could hit a point where we need to take a pause again for another couple of weeks as a number of things go back out, and then start it over again. And I know it's very challenging because people are trying to get those things to us. It's in the middle of your work week. We totally understand that. But there was a point there earlier in the fall that we just had nowhere to put things.
Right.
And now we've hit a bit of a better stride. We moved the boutique off-site. The guests know where that is. They have a better idea of where that is now, so they're getting more items, which I love to see. And so hopefully we'll be able to get through this season without having to take any more pauses.
Good stuff. So if people do have donations, and you're certainly welcome to drop them here, but if not, and they want to bring them directly to you, where can they drop them?
So donations can be accepted at the Lantern on Barnes Road between 9 a.m. and 12 p.m. Monday to Friday. So after 12 p.m., that's when the guests start to arrive to get their things. So that's usually when we cut it off. Now, if there's something extraordinary, if there's something, extraordinary measure, something like that, we don't really have the capacity to do pickups, but I would say reach out, let us know what the situation is, and there might be some alternate way we can accept those things.
Okay. And what would you say your biggest need is right now? If people were to donate, what should we focus on?
I say this all the time. I feel like a broken record, but hopefully none of you have ever heard me say this yet. Men's and women's underwear in a variety of sizes. And the reason for that is there's very few places where you can do laundry here, particularly if you are very low income. So the Gathering Place does offer laundry services. That's one that I forgot earlier. There is a place where people can do laundry, but the need is so high we can only accommodate maybe 6 people a day.
Okay.
So, and what will inevitably end up happening is folks will kind of wear clothes until it is too dirty to wear anymore. With underwear, you don't really have that luxury. So underwear is the hottest thing that goes off the shelves. And then besides that, warm winter jackets, hats, mitts, dry boots, all of those things are staples. But the thing that I think we struggle the most to keep is underwear.
Excellent. Good to know.
Thank
Really
you.
good to know.
Yeah.
And what can we do to help if we want to volunteer? Are you taking volunteers right now? Is there a process in place besides donations? What can we do?
Donations are huge, and whether it's an in-kind donation or a monetary donation, we're also always accepting gift cards. They're a really great tool to kind of help get people past a rough patch. Sometimes you're going through a rougher time than usual, so we can help people out with maybe some extra groceries or things like that. But if we are accepting volunteers, and we we really need volunteers. You know, I know that staff have been covering kind of the coffee station at breakfast time because we're missing our students. We're not having our students come in anymore, so that's a lot of extra kind of work that has to be done. And of course, we're expecting them to do all of their other regular work. So you can check out the website if you're interested in volunteering. There's a couple of forms to fill out. One of them is our NC background check. What I always tell people with that is that when you look at it, it might seem like you need to go drop it off to the RNC, but that will cost you money. We can actually submit those for free. So you just submit that RNC check to us, we send it over, they take care of it, and then you can save yourself the $20.
Perfect.
I think something like that to get it. So we really absolutely need volunteers. I think all day. The middle of the day, lunchtime, is probably when we're doing the best. But even still, I'd say, you know, right now, with the situation with COVID, if you feel comfortable coming in, everyone's wearing masks. We're doing our best to socially distance. The cleaners are working overtime to make sure that everything is as safe as it can be. So, if you're interested, absolutely reach out, and we would love to have you. Yeah.
We'll check in with Reverend Byron, see if there are any questions or comments.
Just one comment that came in this evening. Bishop-elect Sam Rose dropped in to say it's a vital service to the community, so it's nice to have him drop in this evening. Other than that, there's no comments right now. I imagine as happened last week, we'll probably have a few people asking us some questions afterwards, and if we can't answer them, of course, we'll direct them towards you. I'd just like to say before I pass things back to Tracy and our guest this evening, it has been a delight to have the online portion of FateWorks. Of course, FateWorks continues beyond our Wednesday night interviews. Of course, it extends into everyday activity and outreach here at the church, as well as all of us each in our own different way. And also like to thank Tracy for leading up this particular program in the fall, and we look forward to the winter revisiting this, as well as FateWorks and many different outreach programs. In particular, this evening we're recognizing the Gathering Place in our outreach project of all the blessing bags, which have been a tremendous success. There's people dropped off stuff before event this evening, and there's somebody coming after, and so we do thank people who participated in this particular project, as well as others as well. So I'll pass you back to Tracy and our guest this evening.
Thank you, Reverend Byron, and thank you to Reverend Sam Rose. Kieran, thank you very much for coming in this evening. I know, it's a busy time for you guys, and you're probably feeling the stress and the pressure of COVID and increasing numbers, but we really appreciate you coming in to talk to us.
Thank you so much. I'm never too busy to talk about what we do because, I love everyone that I work with, and, I know that there's so much happening, and I just can't speak to it enough. As I said earlier, I could talk for hours and hours. I could be here till the sun comes up talking about all of the work that we do, but never too busy to come and chat, and thank you so much.
Perfect. Well, thank you. And remember, guys, be kind to one another, and kindness is always needed at the Gathering Place and everywhere else in our communities. And thank you for joining us this fall on FaithWorks, and we hope to bring in some new and some different guests in January. So stay tuned for some updates, and be kind. Have a good night.